motives and values which individuals and cultures can go through. So we'll go through the 8 stages and give a little summary of what each stage is all about. And then maybe I'll show some interesting points about the stages at the end. A little precursor here. An interesting point about these 8 stages, you'll notice that they oscillate back and forth from being individualistic to collectivist, then to individualistic, then collectivist. So it oscillates back and forth about being all about the self, then the other, then the self, then the other. Another point is that we move through each stage when we realize the limitations of the stage we are in. So within this summary, I will describe the stage, then describe the limitation of that stage, which is then the catalyst and the reason for moving to the next stage. So let us start with stage 1 from, oh yeah, there's also 2 tiers. So the first 6 stages are called tier 1. The last 2 stages are tier 2. So let's get into the model. Stage 1 is beige. This is just basic survival instinct, animal instinct and survival. Then tier 2, oh yeah, so the problem with the problem with stage 1 is that you as an organism, you realize that there are other organisms around you who you need to coexist with. So you need to relate to them in some way, you must coexist. That's where we get to stage 2, which is purple. Purple is tribalism. So that is when you come together in a tribe, think of nomadic tribes, and this stage contains a lot of mythology, mysticism, and sort of paying homage to spirits. It includes rituals and surviving as a tribe, being all about the tribe. There is no rationality or logic here, not much technological progress or even social progress. It's basic tribal survival with mystical rituals and honoring supernatural spirits. That is stage 2, stage purple. Then we get to stage red. So anyway, the limitation of stage purple is you realize, yes, I'm in this tribe, but I want to be an individual. I seek my individual needs, my individual identity, so this tribe is oppressive. I don't want to be stuck in the tribe. Then you move to stage red, which is like the egocentric, selfish push for power. You are seeking your own power, your own gain, in a very cutthroat sort of way. So stage red, you can think of people like criminals and dictators. That is essentially stage red. Also warlords could be stage red. The limitation that you run into at stage red is that you realize that being so violent and cutthroat, causing damage to others for your own gain, it actually ends up hurting those around you. It hurts your loved ones, it hurts yourself because you're in conflict so often. Then we move to stage 4, which is stage blue. Stage blue is what some of society is currently in. So stage blue is about society. It's about rules, obedience. It's like a conservative attitude, conserving society. It's also very related to religious faith and dogma. So yes, any society that's based on religion, conservative, traditional values, that is very much stage blue. Think of like certain Islamic societies, even like Judeo-Christian societies in previous centuries, that is stage blue. The limitation we run into at stage blue is that you realize that society is oppressive. You're stuck in a box of the rules you're meant to follow to appease God, to appease your religious traditions. So that is the oppressive limitation of blue. So then we move into stage orange, which becomes individualistic again. You want to seek your own success, your own liberty, your own freedom. So stage orange is really the level of the libertarian. Their values include acquisition, materialism, success, esteem, acclaim, capitalism. These are the values of orange. They're about progress. They're also about rationality, science, technology, and just gaining personal acquisition, personal profit. That is what it's all about. Orange is a bit different from red, which was like the criminal form of seeking power. Stage orange has a bit more morals. They might not kill you to take from you, but they would exploit you, and they would do ecological damage, maybe some social damage. They would kind of exploit in a less obvious way, and it's like an externality because they're just seeking their own gain. So that's level orange, pretty much the level of the libertarian, the capitalist. The limitation of stage orange, you realize that seeking my own success purely will not create the best quality of life and will not create happiness, because we live in a community. We are a global community. So therefore, doing all of this damage, you know, destroying the rainforest, destroying the ecology just for profit, exploiting people significantly like slave labor in third world countries, you realize that there's issues with that because we are a global community, we are connected. Then we move to stage green, which is like egalitarian. Egalitarian, heart-centered. The heart starts to open. We have social consciousness, social conscience. We have ecological conscience. Stage green is really about community, philanthropy, being more omni-considerate. It's really like the stage of the hippie. So that's where stage green comes in. You might see a lot of protests. Green also engages in certain spiritual ideologies, a lot of new age spirituality, these kind of practices, psychedelics. So that is stage green. But then limitations come at green because you realize that sharing and caring does not solve all the world's problems. Simply caring about an issue, having a heart-centered approach and protesting, it isn't solving anything. So that's when we step into stage 7, which is yellow. This becomes a special stage because it's also considered tier 2. We'll talk about tier 2 in a moment, but just going on to orange, sorry, stage yellow. So yeah, stage yellow emerges when you realize caring and heart openness does not solve every problem. So yellow is when you move into systems thinking, seeking a broad and detailed knowledge. So systems thinking, seeking truth, philosophical understanding, and starting to integrate knowledge. So it's really the stage of the systems thinker, the philosopher, the truth seeker, he who wants to integrate. That is stage yellow. But then limitations start to be seen at stage yellow because you realize that simply having a systemic understanding of certain systems and certain problems, that alone doesn't solve the problems. Knowledge alone does not solve problems. And stage yellow starts to even notice the limitations of thought itself. So what they start to notice, and this is when this stage 8 emerges, turquoise. So stage yellow starts to notice that, yes, knowledge alone doesn't solve these global problems, and that a group effort is required. They also start to realize the centrality of consciousness, and that consciousness and the raising of consciousness is what is needed to solve every problem from the ground up. So then we come to stage 8, the final stage, turquoise, very advanced stage. And to sum it up in a small sentence, it would be the flowering of mysticism and global collectivism. So with stage turquoise, yes, we start to move into mystical experiences and mystical realities. The boundaries between self and other and environment start to crumble. one starts to notice the interconnectedness of life more and more. They start to move away from thinking and more into being. A greater amount of presence and mindfulness, more direct perception of reality, and starting to get strong intuitive downloads. You start to see your systemic knowledge in real time, in the moment, in real time. So it really is the flowering.
How you going?
How you going, mate?
Gotta love it, don't ya?
Welcome to Townsville, North Queensland. Good community feelings. Hey, bro. So anyway, how you going? Gotta love it. Okay, so that is what Turquoise is about, the sense of mysticism. And then also, as I said, global collectivism. So Stage Yellow became a bit more individualistic and in their own head, a bit left-brained, analysing things, building strong mental models. And then Turquoise is when the heart starts to open again. There starts to be a bit more of an extroversion, a reaching out, and really seeking more and more community, helping others to awaken and raise their consciousness, and creating more group efforts around solving global issues. That's what Turquoise is about. But Turquoise is different to Green, because Green had the protesting and whatnot, but Green was still very kind of egocentric in a way. Green was still judging the lower stages. It was pointing the finger of blame, and it didn't have as much of a systemic understanding of the root causes of issues. Whereas Turquoise is more omniconsiderate. It has a more objective view and understanding of where every stage is at and the different problems. And yeah, it's less about blaming, and it also has a more systemic understanding of the issues. So that is basically Turquoise, mysticism and global communities. So that really sums up the spiral. So we moved from beige, which was survivalist instincts. To give an overview again, just so it was beige, pure survival; purple, tribalism; red, seeking power in a criminal way; blue, society, religious dogma, faith, civil obedience; orange, libertarian, freedom and liberty, acquisition, wealth and personal gain; green, heart-centered openness, egalitarian, social and ecological conscience, hippie; Stage 7, yellow, system stinker, philosopher, truth seeker; then 8, turquoise, mysticism and global collectivism. Okay, so that sums up the spiral. A note on spiral is that people may not necessarily be solely in one level, but we can actually be spread across different levels. We have some aspects of each. And ideally we want to integrate the previous levels below us instead of disassociating from those levels. So that's a mistake that can often happen. When you disassociate from the level below you, like, it becomes a shadow and it can be imbalanced. So, for example, if someone moves into orange, they become more materialistic, seeking their own gain, they might instantly become an atheist. So they're like disassociating from blue, the religious dogma. They're like, I'm an atheist, there is nothing except materialism and rationality and being reductionist. So that is to disassociate from the previous level instead of integrating it. Then if someone moves to green, they might disassociate from their orange. They might become a complete anti-capitalist, eco-warrior, and kind of bash capitalism too much and be aggressive towards it. So instead of disassociating from the previous levels, you want to integrate them. You know, if you become a heart-centered hippie and you're very spiritual, you do some yoga, maybe there are aspects of orange you haven't fully integrated, you know, like keeping a job, paying every bill, getting the budget on point. Yeah, you want to integrate the previous levels, but then move toward the higher levels. So that is spiral dynamics in a nutshell. I hope you enjoy. I hope that you move up the spiral. I hope we all move up the spiral. It may be needed for our species to survive, otherwise we will just tear the world up with our ecological footprint. So yeah, let us move up the spiral. Peace and love.